This story is by the horror author Alex Grass and is from his newly released book, Infernal Tramps: Tales of Weird Terror. The book is available now, and links will be in the description. Also, if you want to hear more stories like this, support this show on Patreon or through Spotify subscriptions. Now, let's get to the story. Do you remember the game Pujkamaunka Splash? I do. Not that there weren't memorable events aplenty in 1993. Clinton was inaugurated, Jurassic Park was in theaters, the ATF botching the Waco siege, and me? A kid has kid dreams, of course. I've been saving up for a new Mongoose villain freestyle bike. After a friend showed me a homemade video of Matt Hoffman doing tail whips and tabletops, I'd become a BMX ramp-riding nut. I was destined for California and superstardom. A life of rad stunts and sun-kissed, bleach-blonde beach bunnies loving all over me, until I was almost sick of it. Almost. But all that was pushed aside when they announced the release date for the Pujkamaunka Splash. I never did buy that bike. I have memories of me and all the other middle schoolers saying, "We're going to Puji," tearing out ads of the Gamer Pro magazine and geeking out over them, not understanding that marketing wasn't the product itself. The game's graphics could only blow your mind as far as 16 bits would let it. And back then, it wasn't very far. But you say you don't remember it? Huh. I guess I'm not too surprised. Nobody ever does. Nobody can find it, or even find any mention of the game. And if you Google it, go ahead, right now if you got the time, so you can see I'm not lying, you won't find it. You'll find a YouTube video about Splash World Punta Cana, and a TikTok about Puka lava backsplashes, but nothing about the game. Why does nobody but me remember Pujkamaunka Splash? The plan was for my grandfather to bring me and my dog Pistol in his Country Squire station wagon to the Bavaria Galleria Mall. He picked us up in front of my mom's tract house, a wild yard littered with my baby sister's Fisher-Price toys and a slip-and-slide that never got put away. Our neighbors hated us. It was early in the morning when Grandpa showed up, early enough that the street lamps were still on. Mom watched me get into his car from the TV room window. Me and Pistol sat in the back. I felt funny sitting up front with my grandfather, so I always tried to avoid it. When I irritated him, he said things like, "Stop being trouble, or I'll leave you where trouble lives, with the poor kids." To which I would reply, "Mom says we are the poor kids." And he'd say, "I mean the ones with fleas. You ever eat nothing but cold cheese and knuckle sandwiches?" I don't know if he was serious, but I made sure I didn't push him far enough to find out. We got to the Bavaria Galleria at about 7 in the morning. The sun was only just coming out and the line was already hundreds of people long, stretching from the mall entrance all the way up to the sidewalk that snaked around the lot. This was a bad sign. Grandpa hated 3 things more than anything else in this world: Japanese cars, fake cripples parking in real cripples' handicap spaces, and waiting in lines. He looked back at me through the rearview mirror while I tried to wipe the frown off my face. I didn't want the whole ride to be for nothing. I figured he'd see the line and we were just gonna drive back home. But he looked at me in the rearview mirror and grinned a conspirator's grin. "Don't worry, kid. We're not waiting in line." We pulled up to a reinforced door next to a loading dock and dumpsters and got out of the car. "Hey, Sam," an elderly security guard said to my grandpa. "How's tricks? Hanging further port than starboard, but at least the wedding tackle's still operational. Not that anything's biting. This is my grandson, Trevor. Trevor, this is my buddy Spets." "Nice to meet you, Mr. Spets," I said, and shuffled Pistol's leash over my left hand so I could offer a handshake. "Just Spets, kid," he said, shaking my hand. "That's quite a grip you got." He leaned in toward Grandpa and nudged him in the ribs. "Kids have been practicing the 5-knuckle shuffle, huh? Easy, Spets. I'm just joshing you. If you were serious, you'd be collecting your teeth." Spets deposited me, Grandpa, and my dog Pistol right out front of Babbage's. There was a younger guard holding our place in line. He left right when we showed up. I looked around at the other adult chaperones fencing the queue of teens and preteens waiting to get in. Everyone had shown up with their grandparents. All of them were younger than 16 or older than 60. Behind us, there were fluorescent lights, the same color as a dirty pool looks underwater. Near those were little tiled plant beds interspread with random shrubbery, benches for husbands to park themselves, bistro tables flavored by shrieky gossipers. In front of us was a huddle of men in coveralls and work coats, trucker caps, and beanies, all of them laced up in work boots. I couldn't tell what they were doing. They all stood around a big wishing well, yelling at the fountain in the middle of it. "What are they doing over there?" I asked. "Where?" Grandpa said. "Right there," I pointed. Grandpa looked up from his newspaper. "It's just an empty fountain." He brought the paper back up in front of his face. "They're probably waiting on someone to fix it." "You don't see those guys?" I said. Grandpa peeked over his paper again and stared right where I was pointing. He looked long enough that he couldn't have missed it, but he still showed no sign that he'd seen what I saw. He reached in his slacks. I heard his pockets jingle. He pulled out a few dimes, a quarter, a dozen pennies. He gave me one of the pennies. "Go ahead, make a wish." I started in the direction of the wishing well, but Grandpa put his hand on my shoulder. "Leave the dog," he said. "You don't mind watching him?" "Leave the dog." He sounded the way people who go a long time without sleep sound. I handed him the leash. I walked over to the wishing well, nudging between two bearded tanks with beer bellies and acid reflux breath. The fountain had been emptied out. I could see two pit bull mixes in the dry well, baring their teeth and snapping and growling at each other. Someone shoved into someone else, who then shoved into me, bumping me into one of the beer-bellied human tanks. Malt liquor spilled in my hair and down my back, reeking somewhere between candy-flavored medicine and fresh-cut sheet metal. All the men held either a tall boy or a bottle. The well reeked of cheap swill and sweat-soaked work clothes. A drunk maintenance man was yelling himself hoarse. "I want to see a throat out! Show me a mud that'll rip another's throat out!" The others cheered. A cloud of cigarette smoke grew or dissipated in proportion to the drunken noise. It seemed like all the men together were one organism, breathing smoke and alcoholic fumes. Some slapped each other's backs with cigarettes or beer still held in their hands. Sparks flew from embers as rough fingers struck burning cherries, cans of Schlitz malt liquor, and old-style bashed lips, and sloshed beer on uniforms. Bottles were smashed on the ground when one of the dogs edged in on the other. One of the pit bulls got the other by the throat. The men cheered, spewing raucous noise the color of blue-gray smoke from their mouths. One pit bull necked the other, and I covered my face. The weaker dog whined and squealed. It sounded like when Mom dropped a paint can on Pistol's foot, but worse. I felt rough hands on me, hands that smelled like grease and piss and drugstore liquor. The hands grabbed my face and vice-gripped my skull and forced me to look forward. A phlegmy voice croaked in my ear. "Watch it, boy. Watch it now. This is where he takes the cutting throat." I was terrified. I thrashed at the stranger's hands. I struggled free. I shoved at every meaty, sweat-stinking body around me. No one tried to stop me. I wasn't even remotely as interesting as dogs killing dogs. I came back and stood in line. My grandfather wasn't reading the paper. Now he was just fidgeting, checking his wristwatch. It took him a half minute to notice me. When he looked down, I handed him back the penny and said, "I didn't use it." I thought for sure Grandpa would notice that I was shaken up, but he didn't say anything. Only took the penny and gave me back Pistol's leash. Cheering started up the line, a rippling daisy chain of applause. I looked ahead. They were opening the store. When it was your turn, a man with a mouthless and eye-holeless bag over his head unhooked a red velvet rope to let you in, one kid at a time. The black bag over the man's head was a sackcloth. The velvet rope, shabby and stain-spotted. Baghead's body was scoliotic and knobby, flesh pinks hued gray by time, prune, wrinkly, like hour-long bathtub fingers. He was so old, much older than my grandpa, than any of the others waiting on the line with their grandkids. I could tell. even with his face covered. I was next. The ancient baghead came close to shouting at me.
Give your dog to the minder and hold out your hand.
His voice was a soundboard of reptile noises and mnemonic respiration, punctuated by a hack and a growl here, and a cough and a grumble there. He spoke in alien English. The syllables and consonants were in their proper place, and his diction was spot on, but it was phonetically mysticized, shifting words I ought to have known into something foreign and new.
Give up the goddamn leash, I said, you scuttling little whelp.
Baghead's wretched voice was more powerful than a man's half his age. I looked up at my grandpa, expecting him to give a litful right back, but as I held the leash out, with my very nervy and whiny poodle attached to it, for him to take, Grandpa stared at the sickly glowing fluorescence overhead, a small spot of drool pooling in the corner of his mouth.
You go wait there,
the baghead said to my grandfather, bouncing his bagged head to a gaggle of grandparents huddled by a shelf filled with Super Mario All-Stars and other Nintendo properties. They were all gray and bent, even grayer and further bent because they were here. Grandpa pulled Pistol over to the seniors' huddle. He bent down on one knee to gently pet our family dog. He'd never pet Pistol before. I couldn't move. I had a sense of the uncanny, something strange and powerful changing the air we breathed, the blood in our veins, strange and powerful enough to make men do things that they wouldn't do otherwise. I was gobsmacked to see a very young girl, the only one who wasn't there to buy the game, bring Pistol a stainless steel dish to drink from. Her head was roughly shaved, the whole skull scabbed and congealed red chicken scratch, and she was completely nude. I don't know how we knew not to tell our parents, or anyone, what we did in that room behind the black curtain. I don't know that my memories of the day I bought Pujkamaunka Splash, or the day after, or all the days after that, would make sense to anyone but me. Because they weren't memories. Not really. They were sensations and images, echoes of acts. A bright green screen on the largest TV I'd ever seen, blood oozing from between the screen's glass and the TV housing, sun flare bright lights flashing, frying my retinas, a cold bone hand wrapped around my wrist, a steel hammer held inside my fingers, urinating on the floor, howling along with my dog Pistol, while a carpet-wide bed of worms, their wriggling bodies so dark green, they were almost black, noisily slushed and squirted as they crawled over the body of another naked girl. I think she died before the worms wetly groped her. I saw the giant TV screen split and crackle open, glass shards for teeth and dark green ooze like drool, the broken mouth wailing in animal anguish, so terrible that Pistol lost his legs, a puddle of urine spreading underneath him on the floor. After that, nothing. I remembered nothing until we'd got to the car. We sat in the station wagon, my copy of Pujkamaunka Splash resting on the dashboard in front of me. It was like I'd only just woken up. My hands were stained red, and there were bloodied strings of curly white fur in between my fingers. I looked over at Grandpa still holding Pistol's leash. Pistol was gone. Grandpa softly cried through a bloody nose and split lip that he didn't have before. My grandfather was in the 20th Armored Division when the U.S. Army liberated the Dachau concentration camp. I'd never seen him cry before. I went home and I played my game. I never saw my grandfather again. So now you understand the mystique, the violence, the sheer, ruining lust of Pujkamaunka. Though, you can't trust what I say. How could you? The video game that dominated the market for years and then disappeared without anyone anywhere remembering any of it? I might as well say I'm the King of England. And even though I was the only one who remembered the game, I didn't understand my memories of it. Not until I found the game again, hidden after all these years. I blew the dust from the cartridge. I wiped down the Super Nintendo. I put the game cartridge in, and I started to play. And my television opened its mouth, like the one in Babbage's did, more than 30 years ago. And inside my television's mouth, I could hear them calling out for me. From deep inside Pujkamaunka Splash, I heard them. I heard Pistol. I heard Grandpa. And I heard the ancient baghead too. They were telling me something. I heard that strange voice. That bag-headed voice speaking a once incomprehensible language. An alien tongue that I now understood.
The time is right. Now bring others to play.